Hello and welcome to the podcast. One of the surprises of working directly with Leibniz's manuscripts is discovering just how small editorial slips can ripple outwards and create large problems in interpretation. A bit of punctuation missed, a smudged letter, or a misread verb has the potential to send a translator down the wrong path and make it difficult, if not impossible, to understand what Leibniz actually meant. Today we'll look at one example of this and show that once the manuscript is read properly, Leibniz's argument suddenly becomes clear. Today we are deciphering Leibniz. This is the manuscript we're looking at, one of Leibniz's ethical writings entitled The Place of Others. In this manuscript he considers the moral and political importance of putting oneself in somebody else's shoes. Now the first side of the manuscript is very legible. The second side is more of a challenge, but the text has been edited 3 times, so one would hope that one of those transcriptions will have accurately captured Leibniz's words. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Before we get to that, let's consider what's going on this second side a little bit more. Leibniz is considering a form of the golden rule. Do not do to others what you do not want them to do to you. He calls this a principle of morality, and he notes that some people, although they accept it as a principle of morality, nevertheless want to limit it. Samuel Pufendorf, for example. According to Leibniz, Pufendorf's view is that the golden rule should be understood as a principle of morality only for a regulated will. What's that? It's a will that is not infected by a false self-love and which submits itself to the commands of God and of legitimate powers. And then comes the sentence in which Leibniz offers a critique of Pufendorf's position. What's the argument here? Well, unfortunately, it's a sentence that stumped previous editors, and it would be very difficult to figure out Leibniz's point from the published transcriptions. The first transcriptions at the top simply omits the sentence altogether. The second and the third get most of the words right, but enough wrong to make both readings as unclear as they are ungrammatical. Now, if we look at the sentence in the manuscript, we can see 2 things that these editors missed. First, there's a question mark after the word princip. It's hard to spot because it's buried in the vertical writing at the edge of the page, but it's there. And this means we're dealing with 2 sentences here, not 1, as previous editors supposed. Second, there's an S followed by an apostrophe immediately before the word ill. The previous editors missed that too, possibly mistaking it for a smudge. Now once we add what was missed, we get a couple of coherent grammatical sentences. In English, Leibniz is saying, but as soon as this great limitation is needed and we have to examine wills, what will be the use of the principle? It will cease to serve as a sign if it needs other signs. So what does this mean? What is Leibniz's point here? Remember that he has just summarized the view of those who defend the golden rule. Do not do to others what you do not want them to do to you. He summarized their view as an absolutely true moral principle, but they defend it only by adding a major limitation. They say the principle applies only when the will in question is a regulated will, one that is purified of self-love and obedient to divine and civil authority. So Leibniz's response to that is to say, if the principle, the golden rule, works only when applied to a regulated will, and if we must first examine whether the will is regulated, then the principle no longer functions as a sign, as a quick, intuitive guide to moral judgment. A sign is useful only if it points the way without requiring another sign to interpret it. But if the golden rule needs prior moral criteria to tell us when it applies, it loses its simplicity and its practical value. It becomes a conclusion that depends on other signs, not a sign in its own right. So the sentences we've just deciphered mean a principle meant to guide us cannot guide us if it must itself be guided. In other words, the golden rule cannot serve as a basic moral test if it only works after we have already performed a deeper moral analysis. It would have been very difficult to figure out any of this if all we had to go on was one or both of the faulty transcriptions. But restore the missing bit of punctuation, restore the missing S, and suddenly Leibniz's argument is accessible. Moments like this are why deciphering Leibniz matters. It's not about pedantry or the thrill of manuscript hunting. It's about restoring the precision of a philosopher who cared deeply about clarity and who spent his life trying to build systems that would eliminate ambiguity altogether. When his words are miscopied, his arguments are distorted. When his words are recovered, his thought regains its sharpness. Incidentally, immediately after his critique of Pufendorf, Leibniz shifts into reconstruction mode. He argues that the real value of the golden rule is that it stimulates moral reflection, and that's because it prompts us to put ourselves in the place of others, because it generates considerations we might otherwise overlook, because it alerts us to possible injustice or harm, and because it helps us foresee the consequences of our actions. In other words, the principle is not a criterion, but a heuristic, a tool for attention, for imagination, and for prudence. Thank you for your kind attention. You will find many more deciphered passages in the 3-volume edition of Leibniz's philosophical papers. In the next video, we'll be looking at what to do when manuscript damage is severe enough that some of the words Leibniz wrote simply aren't there anymore. We'll be reconstructing Leibniz.